Little Fairy Rememberella. Once upon a time, in a fairy kingdom down the stream of everlasting water, past the unicorn meadow and near the troll caves, lived a fairy. Born from forget-me-not, but on the 20th day of the 3rd month, little Fairy Rememberella was not the most popular fairy amongst her mates. Every fairy is born with a special skill, which they use to contribute to the everyday life in the fairy kingdom. As you might have already guessed, based on her name and her birth flower, Rememberella was blessed with a remarkable memory. Because of that, she was assigned the profession of a storyteller and secret keeper of the kingdom. But unlike her fellow fairies with similar positions, Rememberella was easily bored with only learning about the past and current events of the fairy world. She would rather learn about different cultures and races, and some of her favorite topics were the big troll revolution in the Humblebee era and the reign of the two-horned unicorn. But since these events had nothing to do with the fairy world, the elders refused to teach the younger fairies about them as they were viewed as irrelevant. To satisfy her need for knowledge, Rememberella would once a month sneak out at night and meet with Globally the troll, Amber the unicorn, and Zuzi the human. Those three called themselves travelers of the worlds, and their thirst for knowledge was equal to Rememberella's. They collected tales from every known and unknown species in the world, and would share them with everybody who was willing to listen. Nothing gave Rememberella more pleasure than getting lost in the stories of faraway countries and long-forgotten occurrences. Even though the fairies never actually mentioned anything, Rememberella knew that her behavior was frowned upon. During the time she spent every day writing down and expanding the history of the fairy kingdom, her mind would wander off every so often, leaving her daydreaming of the worlds she had never been to for hours. One night, Rememberella was supposed to meet up with her friends right outside the fairy kingdom. Everything changed. Rememberella had been waiting quite a while and was about to go back home again, saddened by the thought that her friends had forgotten about her, when she saw an out-of-breath and pretty serious-looking Globally running towards her. He told her about what was happening. A group of humans had discovered the unicorn meadow a few miles up the stream. Driven by greed and ready to destroy, they were hunting down the unicorns to rob them of their golden horns. The unicorns, a peaceful and noble race, were barely able to defend themselves. Seized with panic, Rememberella did the first thing that came to her mind. They hurried back into the fairy kingdom where Rememberella recruited the warrior fairies. Reluctant at first and neither very fond of Rememberella nor the unicorns, who they thought to be very arrogant and sassy, the fairies would never miss an opportunity to show off their fighting skills and their fine armor. So the warrior fairies agreed. Even Globally was equipped with a small sword and shield before he led them up to the stream towards the meadow. Thanks to her knowledge about the unicorns as well as the humans, Rememberella used the time until they arrived at the battlefield to forge out a plan on how to get rid of the humans most efficiently without endangering the unicorns anymore. When they finally got there, the fight which went down would in the chronicles of the trolls, humans, unicorn and fairies be known as the Horny Battle. It wasn't until decades later before someone noticed that this was indeed a very unfortunate title and renamed it to the War of the Big Four. Anyway, from this day on, the fairies and unicorns made peace with each other and decided to work together more often. As it turned out, neither species was as bad as their respective ancestors made them appear. The fairies used their smithery to fashion prosthetic horns for those unicorns, which had lost theirs to the humans. In exchange, the unicorns would allow the fairies to use their hair from their tails for spells and bandages, as it turns out that they possess magical healing powers. And Rememberella, together with Globally, Amber and Susie, would travel the world to collect stories from foreign lands while spreading the history of her people. And they lived happily ever after.